Ever been in an online discussion where you made a solid, well-researched point, and somehow the conversation turned into an interrogation about you instead? That's not a coincidence. That's a tactic, and it plays out in comment sections, group chats, and forums every single day. Here's a real pattern, drawn from a real-life online exchange, anonymized for data protection compliance. Participant A raised a well-researched point on a controversial topic. Participant B, instead of engaging with the argument itself, kept circling back to a different question entirely. What tools did participant A use to write their response? That single shift set off a cascade of tactics designed to undermine credibility without ever addressing the actual argument. Let's break down 5 of them. Tactic 1. Transparency as a smokescreen. On the surface, asking for transparency sounds reasonable, even virtuous. But here, it was used to shift attention away from the substance of the argument and onto the process behind it. Once the conversation becomes about how something was said, instead of whether it's true, the original point quietly disappears. Here's how to navigate it. Let's stay focused on the argument itself. The research and evidence stand on their own, regardless of the tools used to organize them. Tactic 2. Treating a personal preference as if it were a universal rule. In this exchange, participant B's own experience and opinions about a specific tool were framed as the standard every argument should be judged by, as if not meeting that personal bar made the argument invalid. This is a subtle move. It doesn't attack the argument directly, it just quietly redefines what counts as valid. Here's how to navigate it. That's your personal take, and it's worth hearing. But the argument should be judged on shared, objective standards, not one person's individual preference. Tactic 3. Entrapment through repetition. Participant B kept returning to the same narrow question again and again, in slightly different forms. Each repetition wasn't really seeking new information. It was designed to nudge participant A into a defensive posture, over-explaining and justifying themselves instead of making their case. The moment you're mostly explaining yourself, instead of stating your position, you've been pulled into someone else's frame. Here's how to navigate it. I've already addressed that. My position stands on its own merits. Let's move forward from there. Tactic 4. The apology that isn't really an apology. At a few points, participant B offered something that sounded like an acknowledgement of a misstep, quickly followed by another justification or deflection. The apology becomes a doorway to a new tangent, not an actual reset. It's easy to accept the apology and follow the new thread it opens. That's exactly the trap. Here's how to navigate it. Thank you for acknowledging that. Now back to the original point, which is still unresolved. Tactic 5. Implying a tool or method is inherently risky without ever engaging with whether the actual content is accurate. Here, repeated focus on how the response was generated quietly suggested the method itself was suspect, shifting the conversation to whether the tool could be trusted, rather than whether the argument held up. But a tool is just a tool. Responsibility and validity sits with the person using it and the substance of what they said. Here's how to navigate it. The method isn't the issue. If you think the content itself is wrong, let's talk about that directly. Transparency used as a smokescreen. Personal preference dressed up as a universal standard. Repetition designed to entrap. Apologies that deflect instead of resolve. And implied risk that shifts focus from content to method. None of these tactics attack an argument head-on. That's what makes them effective, And that's exactly why naming them matters. Once you can see the pattern, it loses its grip. If you've run into a version of this in a comment section or group chat, you're not alone. It's one of the most common ways online discussions get derailed. Subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and let me know in the comments, which of these 5 have you seen play out?